Arkansas has carried out its fourth execution within a week, bringing a bloody end to the state's controversial attempt to run a conveyor belt of death in an aggressive burst of killings unseen in the U.S. more than half a century. Kenneth Williams was pronounced dead at 11:05 p.m. local time at the end of a long day of intense legal hearings in both state and federal courts that failed to secure a stay on his sentence. He was administered a triple lethal injection in the Cummins unit death chamber, with the first syringe to have been plunged at 10:52 p.m. After the killing was completed, the Republican governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, who had devised the controversial scheme of quick-fire executions, proclaimed that the long path of justice ended tonight. Arkansans can reflect on the last 2 weeks with confidence. Our system of laws in this state has worked. But observers are likely to have anything but confidence in the execution process in Arkansas, as doubts have dogged the week's proceedings. Those doubts are certain to deepen after Thursday night's killing, as witnesses reported. The prisoner shook in the middle of the procedure. According to media witnesses, about 3 minutes into the lethal injection, Williams was seen to shake for about 10 seconds. Fears have swirled around the state's insistence on using midazolam as its first of the 3 drugs. Midazolam is a sedative and does not have the same properties as anesthetics used to render people unconscious. Hospital surgeries. During the previous execution of Marcel Williams on Monday, witnesses saw him breathing heavily and arching his back for several minutes. Lawyers representing the death row inmates repeatedly warned, were the prisoner not fully unconscious, they could be subjected to excruciating pain as a result of the third drug. Potassium chloride stops the heart. Yet no one would know, because the second drug, vecuronium bromide, is a paralytic, makes the individual incapable of any movement. Kenneth Williams made a lengthy statement before he was killed. He apologized to all his victims' families and said, "I was more than wrong. The crimes I perpetrated against you all were senseless, extremely hurtful, and inexcusable. I humbly beg your forgiveness and pray you find the peace, healing, and closure you all deserve." He added, "I am not the same person I was. I have been transformed. Some things can't be undone. I seek forgiveness." Then he began speaking in tongues. Earlier in the day, lawyers, the inmate, had appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court to stop the execution from going ahead on grounds Williams is intellectually disabled, and as such protected from being put to death. Under Atkins v. Virginia, the Supreme Court prohibited capital punishment for inmates with intellectual disabilities. In the petition to the nation's highest court, Williams, lawyers argued, he has been examined by several mental health experts who have all found him to be intellectually disabled. Yet the prisoner has repeatedly been denied a hearing on the issue. In effect, his claim to be protected by the U.S. Constitution from an unlawful state killing has never been addressed by the judicial system. The state has not offered any evidence or proffered an expert witness to rebut the substantial proof. Mr. Williams is intellectually disabled. To think he can be executed without any court review is simply unimaginable, said Sean Nolan, a member of the condemned man's legal team. Despite the plea, the nation's highest court, through Justice Samuel Alito, denied the motion for a stay, thus allowing the execution to proceed. The 9 justices, who included President Trump's nominee Neil Gorsuch approving his 4th execution, did not give a reason for their decision. Williams, 38, was one of 8 prisoners who were given death warrants scheduled in rare double executions over an one-day period this month. Hutchinson attempted to justify the mass execution, unparalleled in death penalty history by anything since 1951, by arguing a batch of the sedative midazolam used as the first of 3 drugs in its lethal injection protocol would expire at the end of April. In intense legal jousting that reached up to the U.S. Supreme Court on numerous occasions, 4 of the 8 condemned prisoners were eventually spared execution in this round of killings. 3 men have been put to death: Ledell Lee last week, and Marcel Williams, and Jack Jones on Monday night in the first double execution in the U.S. in 16 years. Williams was sentenced to death for the October 1999 murder of Cecil Boren. He had escaped from Cummins Prison, the same institution in which he was set to be executed on Thursday night. At the time of the escape and Boren murder, he had already been serving a life sentence for the murder of Dominique Hurd in the previous year. After murdering Boren, he stole his victim's truck and crashed it into another vehicle, also killing its driver, Michael Greenwood. On Thursday, Kayla Greenwood, the daughter of the deceased driver, wrote a letter to Hutchinson pleading with him not to go ahead with the Williams execution. "When he took my father from us, Mr. Williams caused us all a great deal of pain," she said. "That does not mean that asking you to spare Mr. Williams is not the right thing to do. It is." She went on to reveal her family had paid for travel costs to allow the condemned prisoner's own daughter, Jasmine, to visit him in prison before he died. "Jasmine had done nothing at all but like me. She could lose her father," Kayla Greenwood wrote. "If Mr. Williams is executed, her loss, her pain will be as real as mine. I do not wish this on anyone." Williams addressed Kayla Greenwood personally to thank her. Such kindness in his statement moments. "He was killed," he said, to Kayla Greenwood and the whole Greenwood family. "The acts of grace, forgiveness, and mercy you demonstrated to the person who had taken so much from you by bringing to me in prison my own baby and grandchild right before my scheduled execution. No rapists, murderer, terrorist, butcher, barbarian. Not even old Beelzebub himself could withstand such a blast of glorious light and continue to walk in darkness." The families of Williams, other victims, Boren and Hurd, however, did not oppose his execution. In addition to the crushed schedule of so many executions in such short order, the individual killings carried out by Arkansas in the past week have been controversial. As the Fair Punishment Project at Harvard Law School pointed out on Thursday, the 3 men already killed by Arkansas had potent claims for mitigation. Claims the U.S. Supreme Court itself has made clear must be considered when deciding who is eligible. The ultimate punishment. In an amicus brief filed on behalf of Williams, the project wrote, "Arkansas has executed 3 men, all of whom experienced unspeakable abuse and had significant impairments never presented to a jury. Ledell Lee appeared to have fetal alcohol syndrome, borderline intellectual ability, and a plausible but under-investigated innocence claim. But his conflicted counsel, drunk attorney, and mentally ill lawyer all failed to investigate this evidence." The brief went on. Jack Jones had bipolar disorder and a father who beat him and raped his sister. Marcel Williams had a mother who pimped him out to older women. Sex starting when Marcel was a preteen. The jurors who sentenced these men to death never heard this evidence. Jacob Rosenberg is a reporter for the Arkansas Times.